Hello, good morning. I hope you're enjoying your first cup of coffee. I'm on my first cup of coffee. Everyone in our house is still asleep this morning. And I'm down here getting prepared for our first recipe for the day. We are going to be making Mama Llama Ding Dong, that's what my kids like to call me, and Uber Daddy's yummy granola. So that's what we are making. I usually fill this thing up pretty much all the way to the top. I'll usually double the recipe. Today I'm not, and it's gone in a couple of days because we all love this recipe so much. So here's what you're going to need. Some rolled oats. Choose the ones that you like. I would not do instant oats, so don't do that. A nut of your choice. My favorite is slivered almonds. I simply love them. Tried many different nuts in this recipe, and this one seems to work the best. If you're going to use another nut, just make sure that you chop it up. You don't want huge, big pieces, and you want it to get nice and crispy. You can also add seeds to the recipe, whatever your seed of choice is. Sometimes we use sesame seeds or sunflower seeds. My kids don't really like the seeds very much, so I tend to not put them in there. So your choice, your nut of choice, your seed of choice. So we'll have those. Those are the base of the recipe. Then you need your liquids. So first liquid is coconut oil. I'm fine with using coconut oil. I know that the jury is definitely still out there on the science of that. We'll dig into that a little bit. But coconut oil works. The other options, if you don't have coconut oil, would be ghee or butter. The other one is going to be then maple syrup. So you're going to use about a half cup or so of the maple syrup. Yes, a half cup of the maple syrup. Then we have 2 spices. These are my favorite spices. Well, for this recipe. So cinnamon is 1 spice, about a tablespoon of that, and then a teaspoon of cardamom. If you love cardamom, use more. If you don't love cardamom, use less. The original recipe didn't call for any cardamom. I like cardamom. I don't love cardamom, so I use a little. And then a bit of vanilla extract. It's about a teaspoon of that. And then salt. Okay, so this stuff is gonna be where we start. Then we're gonna finish off the dish on this side. And I'll explain all of that when we get cooking. So unsweetened shredded coconuts. That's what I'm using here. You could use the big flakes if you like. I love the small flakes. My daughter can't stand coconuts, and she loves our granola, and it has coconut in it. So I like the baby stuff, and please, unsweetened, you don't want to add that extra sugar. And then you use a dry fruit of your choice. So today I am using golden raisins because my daughter loves golden raisins and I want to surprise her with that. And then regular raisins, but I've used dates. Dates are fantastic in this, as well as figs. Figs chopped up like in smaller pieces. They can be incredibly sweet. So you want to go tiny on the volume with those. And I've also used cherries. Those are really delicious as well. And then prunes. So that all works. That's all you're going to need. Oh, wait, the cooking tools that you'll need. So you'll need a little pot in order to heat or melt your fat, which today we're using coconut. And then you'll need a bowl that is going to mix everything together. And then a spatula just to kind of, mix things up with, oh, there's one more thing, sorry. You're also going to need a baking sheet. And I like to use parchment paper. You don't have to. I like to use parchment paper because it makes, for me, transferring it into this beautiful thing much easier. All right, we will see you in a bit. Okay, we are ready to cook this delicious granola together. Now, the first thing that you want to do is turn the oven on. I did that much earlier this morning. I've divided up my station. I like to be really organized. I've divided up into 3 sections. This is the dry stuff. This is the wet stuff. This is the I'm going to add it later stuff. Okay. So we're going to start with the dry stuff. 4 cups of your oats in, 1 cup of your slivered almonds or your nut of choice. I put all of my spices here, which is a tablespoon of the cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of the cardamom, and a half teaspoon of the salt. It's in. And then my favorite little spatula. I'm just going to mix it up together. And then I have my wet stuff. So I melted the coconut oil here. I'm going to add in my maple syrup. So that's half a cup and half a cup. And then 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And that's done. And then what I like to do is just mix it in, nice and gentle. mix it into the dry stuff. Okay. Should have done that a little bit slower because then it gets evenly distributed a bit better. So once it's all nicely mixed together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this baking sheet. The baking sheet, it's a pretty large one. For all of this, I have parchment paper on it. I'll tell you why I like parchment paper, because I can lift it pretty easily and then pour it into my container with ease. I don't have to, there's not a lot of spillage or anything. So I am fully seasoned here with the oil and the sweetness. And I am putting it onto this baking sheet. Hopefully you can't see that. All right, so on the baking sheet, spread pretty evenly. So I like to get it as flat as possible. Not science, doesn't have to be perfect. I'm like, roll with the punches here. So that, now it goes into the oven. So I'm gonna put it in the oven and then I'm gonna start my timer. This is kind of important that you watch it pretty closely. Sometimes I get distracted and walk away. So the first amount of time that I put in there is 7 minutes. So I do a 7-minute bake on 350, 10-minute, 7-minute, 10-minute. And there's a little bit of reasoning behind that. I have tried to make this in many, many different ways. And when I have done 10-minute, 10-minute, 10-minute intervals, and then you mix it, you take it out, you mix it up a little bit so that it gets evenly browned and crispy. I found that it just got too dry or it didn't taste right, so I kept fiddling with the time. So I found in my oven it works brilliantly. When I start with the initial thing is 7 minutes, I mix it up, and then I do 10 minutes. And then I do 7 minutes again, after mixing it, take it out of the oven, and then the final one's 10 minutes. In the final cooking experience for the granola, I add in the shredded coconut, so I'm gonna actually put these in together, the shredded coconut and my dried fruit. So I will mix that evenly onto that baking sheet. And that just, it plumps up the fruit. It prevents the fruit from getting too dry if you add it in too early. So that's a quick little cooking tip. Okay, so we're just gonna wait now and you'll see what it comes out at the end. Okay, so timer just went off. For the first 7 minutes, I'm going to take these guys out of my oven. And then we are going to use my favorite little spatula, and I'm going to just mix it around. So pretty simple. I like easy, push it from the edges over to the center, and then I just push it out that way. So I do that all the way around like this, and then again, flatten it out. Get those centers out to the edges, because that's in my oven where it gets crispiest. I assume it's gonna be that way in your oven. Oh, shush. Okay, and then flatten it out. Again, does not have to be perfect. And we'll put it back in the oven. So that was, the first one was 7 minutes. This is going to be 10. Start, and we will see you back in. Okay, so we are on our last 10 minutes of baking. You can see this. It's getting really nice and brown. The house smells like holidays. It is just so delicious with the cinnamon and the cardamom. It's amazing. So I am going to mix this up really quick first. And now, because it's my last 10 minutes of baking, I'm adding the raisins and the shredded, unsweetened shredded coconut. So we're gonna mix that in all throughout. You don't wanna layer it on top. I actually never have tried that. I guess you could try it. But I just like to mix it in. And then what I have found is that in the last 10 minutes, and you know what, sometimes I adjust the last baking time frame based on how brown my oats look. These look a little brown, so I'm gonna actually check in on them at about 5 minutes or so. So let's put them in the oven and set the timer. So I'm gonna set it this time for 5, just to get it started. So while we wait for that, I've got some really super fun facts in regards to the oats. So oats are a great source of fiber. The better oat to choose if you can would be the steel cut oats. They're also packed with phosphorus and magnesium, which is lovely. The concern that you might have with this recipe is the sugar content or the fat content. If you're avoiding sugar, don't make the recipe. If you're trying to avoid fat, don't make the recipe. We will be posting a lot more savory breakfast items. That's kind of my go-to. I'm a savory kind of gal. So if this doesn't work for you, no problem. But it really does taste delicious, and in small amounts, it's great. One of the things that I really recommend is whenever you're storing it, store it with a little measuring tool. This is something I think I got from a really old rice maker. And that way, whenever your family members are going in or you are going in, if you know that you just want to have a small amount, you can actually know exactly how much you are getting. I recommend no more than a half cup. Not everybody follows that rule. All right, we'll see you back. Okay, we are done. It was so simple, easy prep, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, with that fruit at the end. Very simple, smells delicious. I'm so excited to try this. There's nothing like a warm granola. Couple little tips on that granola. I lift it up, put it into this container. I might just use a couple of scoops with this guy to put it in the container, just to kind of lighten this before I raise up the edges, create a little funnel, and then put it in here. You've noticed that this is now empty. I want to put the older granola, which is about a week and a half old, back in this on top so that that gets eaten first. So with that, lots more information on my blog. Click on the bio, join up as a member. You'll get really simple recipes. Whenever I post a new nutrition piece in there, it'll come right to your email, and I would love to have you just join on in and make some comments. Until we cook again, I hope you all will be well. Take care.